Hello and welcome to one and all. In today's class, I'll explain to you about the agricultural pricing policy in India. So, in the previous class, I explained about the agricultural marketing in India, like what are all the defects faced by the farmers in marketing their produce and what are all the steps taken by the government. So, agricultural marketing is nothing but selling of the agricultural produce in the market at the market price. So only then the farmers will be ultimately benefited. So when it comes to agricultural pricing, that market price, whatever the price at which the farmers are selling, that should be remunerative to them. Then only the farmers will be benefited, isn't it? So there is a lot of role to be played by the government in determining the agricultural pricing prices in our country, because uh, we cannot totally leave it to the market mechanism. So it is because India being most of the people are poor in our country, the farmers also have to be benefited, the consumers also have to be benefited. So in our country, the government interferes with the market mechanism in fixing the prices for agricultural commodities, because the reason is, see for example, if there is, when normally the farmers bring the commodities for sale only after the harvest. So after the harvesting season, the supply will be more. So if there is huge supply of agricultural commodities, that's what normally happens as soon as the harvest is over. So huge supply of agricultural commodities. So then the price will fall, isn't it? If you leave it to the market mechanism, whenever the supply is more, then automatically the price will fall. Then the farmers will not get the remunerative prices. Then the farmers will suffer. On the other hand, if there is, if the supply is short or if there is huge demand, then automatically in the market the price will rise and the consumers will suffer. The final consumers will suffer. So, in order to avoid this problem at every stage, or at least for the necessary agricultural commodities, the government interferes with the market mechanism to benefit both the farmers as well as the consumers. So, hence, the government in our country interferes with the market mechanism in fixing the prices of agricultural commodities. So this is the reason. So most of the farmers, they are also poor. Majority of the consumers, they are also poor. So both should not be made to suffer of because of the high prices of agricultural commodities. So in order to avoid that, the government interferes in fixing the prices of agricultural products. Okay, so this is the reasons for uh, determination of agricultural pricing policy by the government in our country. Okay, now what are all the various objectives of agricultural pricing policy? So the agricultural pricing policy differs from country to country, um, depending upon their stages of economic development. So, as far as the developed countries are concerned, the agricultural pricing policy is mainly done so that there will not be any uh, steep fall in the agricultural income. So under that motive, in the developed countries, agricultural pricing policies fixed or determined by the government, that too not at all times, whenever it is necessary. But whereas uh, underdeveloped countries or countries like India, it has got, there are so many reasons, so many objectives are there when the government is fixing the prices of agricultural commodities. So first objective is to meet the domestic consumption requirements. So to meet the domestic consumption requirements, meaning if the prices of the agricultural products are very high, so majority of the poorer sections of the population, they will not be able to consume the agricultural commodities. So in order to, so they should also, everyone should be able to purchase the commodities, isn't it? It should be affordable to each and every section of the population. So in order to, then only the entire domestic consumption will be requirement will be satisfied. So in order to meet the domestic consumption requirements, the price should not be very, very high. So for that reason, the government has to interfere in fixing the prices of agricultural commodities. Then the second one is the to provide price stability in the agricultural product. So we all know that Indian agriculture is gambling in monsoon, isn't it? So whenever there is drought conditions and all, there will be shortage of agricultural commodities and the price will increase. So there will not be any stability in the prices of agricultural commodities. So if the government interferes, see normally what the government does, the government interferes and the government keeps certain buffer stocks, stores the commodities to be released at the time of drought conditions. So if there is a supply of agricultural commodities throughout the year, then there will not be too much of fluctuations in the prices of agricultural commodities. So for that, in order to maintain the stability in the prices of agricultural commodities, the government has to interfere. Okay, then the third objective is to ensure reasonable relation between the prices of food grains and non-food grains. So there are two reasons for this. One is then only uh, the price. Of course, there will be variations between the prices of one commodity and another commodity, between food grains and non-food grains. But then there should not be too much of a difference between the prices of these two commodities, food grains, and there should always be a balance. Because suppose, for example, if the farmers come to know that the prices of non-food grains are much much higher than the prices of food grains, most of them will convert their land for the cultivation of non-food grains instead of food grains. Then there will be a severe shortage of food grains in the country. So there should be a reasonable relation. There should not be that much of a difference between the prices of one commodity and another commodity. So if it is left to the market, there will be a lot of differences between the prices of these two types of commodities. So for that reason, again, the government has to interfere. Then the next one is to ensure, same reason, to ensure reasonable relationship between the prices of agricultural commodities and manufactured goods. So the balance have to be maintained. So for that, between either food grains and non-food grains, or between the total agricultural commodities and the manufactured good, there should be a balance in the prices that have to be maintained. So again, for that reason, the government has to interfere. Then The next reason is to smooth seasonal and cyclical fluctuations of prices of agricultural commodities. So normally what happens? As soon as the harvest is over, that point of time, the price will be very low. And then after a certain period of time, the price will start increasing. So there will always be, because that is again happening because of the demand and supply conditions in the market. So as soon as the harvest is over, the supply will be very high. Because of that reason, the price will come down. Then after a certain point of time, there will be supply will be lesser than demand. So because of all this, there will always be fluctuations in the prices of agricultural commodities. So that should not be happening. The same reason how the government is interfering to maintain the price stability, this is also for the same reason. Without any fluctuations, the prices have to be stable. Then the next important reason is to remove price differences between the regions. So it is not that in one region the prices are very low and in another regions the prices are very high. So there should be a balance between balance in the prices of all the regions. The prices should be more or less should be the same. Okay. Then the next one is to make available food to consumers at the time of shortage. At the time of shortage. So this is the reason I mentioned to you. In developed countries, there is only one reason: to prevent the fall in the agricultural income. But as far as countries like India is concerned, it is not only about the prices. There are so many other factors associated with it. So this is something like that, to make, apart from prices, to make available food to consumers at the time of shortage. So that is the reason the government, the Food Corporation of India, is maintaining the buffer stock. So storing the commodity and releasing at the time of shortage, so that throughout the year there will be the adequate quantity of food grains will be available to all the consumers in the country. So for that reason also the government has to interfere. Apart from maintaining the price stability, the availability of food grains at all times to the consumers in the country. So for that reason also the government has to interfere. Okay. Then apart from domestic consumption, so agricultural products are exported to the other countries also. So for that also, to increase the production and exports of agricultural products. So not only for meeting the domestic consumption requirements, agricultural products are exported to other countries also. Through that also we are earning a sufficient amount of foreign exchange reserve. So for that also there should be encouragement to the farmers to increase the production, so that the commodities could be exported to the other countries in order to earn the sufficient amount of foreign exchange resource for the country. For that also again the government has to interfere. And then the next one is to provide raw materials to the industries at reasonable prices. So there are so much of contribution made by the agricultural sector. So the one main contribution is providing the requirement, the domestic consumption requirement. And then it is also contributing to the export of the country. And another major contribution it is doing is to providing the raw materials to the industries. So majority of the industries in our country are agro-based industries. Okay, so those agro-based industries, they need a steady supply of regular supply of raw materials from the agricultural sector. So for that, in order to ensure that, otherwise these industries will not survive. So in order to ensure that these industries are regularly getting their raw materials from the agricultural sector. For that reason also the government has to interfere. Okay, then the next one is to ensure constant use of to ensure constant usage of modern inputs. So only if the farmers are getting the better remunerative prices, then only they will be encouraged to produce more. And only if they are, if they are getting the prices, appropriate prices, remunerative prices, they can use the modern methods of cultivation. So if they are used one, because their income is regular, they will be able to use the modern inputs, and because of the application of modern methods of cultivation, the production will also increase in the country to meet the domestic consumption, to meet the exports, to meet the raw materials requirements of the industries. All this can be done when there is a usage of modern inputs. So the farmers, if they have to use the modern inputs, there are two things. One is they should get proper income. Then only they can invest on modern methods of cultivation. That income will increase only when they are getting proper remunerative prices for their products. So that remunerative prices will be assured by the government. Okay, and apart from modern inputs, also to ensure, or what you say, proper crop planning. So crop planning in the sense that, because of the expectation, uh, see, the government will, depending upon the climatic conditions, the government will announce in advance, like these are all the crops we are going to purchase, and this is, this is the price we are going to pay. So it will enable the farmers. So this is the type of this kharif season, this rabi seasons, or this particular year, this is the type of crop the government is going to purchase. So the farmers will start preparing, and the farmers will start cultivating those kinds of crops. Okay, so there will be proper planning by the, left to the farmers, they do not know that much. So if the government announces in advance that these are all the crops we are going to purchase for this particular year, for this particular season, so accordingly the farmers can also plan what type of crops they have to cultivate. Okay, and then next one is to prevent, most important, to prevent exploitation of farmers from intermediaries. So we have seen in the previous classes, isn't it, how the traders, middlemen, brokers, commission agents, they're all exploiting the farmers by purchasing the product at a very, very lesser price. So if there is no agricultural pricing policy by the government, fixed by the government, then automatically all these intermediaries will exploit the farmers by paying them at very, very low price. So prevent the exploitation from intermediaries who purchase at a very low price. So if the government is interfering and fixes the price, this is the price the government agency is going to purchase. So then the government, the farmers, they need not have to sell their commodities. The farmers, they need not have to sell their commodities to their intermediaries at a low price, isn't it? They can directly sell to the government agency at the remunerative prices. So these are all the main objectives of reasons or objectives for government to interfere in fixing the prices of agricultural commodities. Okay, and this is a very important 5 marks question from the board exam point of view. Then moving on to the main features of agricultural pricing policy. Okay, so first one is, what are all the institutions the government has set up in connection with fixing the agricultural prices. Okay, so basically the government has set up two institutions. The first one is Agricultural Price Commission. So this institution was set up by the government in 1965. So this Agricultural Price Commission is the main reason that this institute was set up by the government is to advise the government about there is something called as the minimum support price, popularly known as the MSP. The minimum support price, that is MSP, and also another price known as the procurement prices. Okay, so this is, when the Food Corporation of India is purchasing it's a government agency. When the Food Corporation of India is purchasing the products from the farmers, so they have to pay some prices, and that price should be, already mentioned to you in the previous class also, that should be supportive enough to the farmers. So there are types of two categories of prices the government, the Food Corporation of India fixes. That is fixed by the whatever the prices that are suggested by the Agricultural Price Commission. So the main job of this Agricultural Price Commission is to advise the government what should be the minimum support price and what should be the procurement price for the agricultural commodities. And this was set up in 1965, and then since 1985, it has been called as the same institute has been called as the CACP. So that is CACP. The full form is Commission for Agricultural Cost and Prices. So the same job is now done by the CACP. So the main job of the CACP is to advise the government what should be the minimum support price and what should be the procurement price for the agricultural commodities. Okay. Then the second institution what the government has set up is the establishment of Food Corporation of India. The Food Corporation of India, that is FCI. Okay, so this is also set up in 1965. So the Food Corporation of India is the main agency, government agency, which is taking care of all the purchases or procuring the products from the farmers and maintaining the buffer stock. All those things are taken care of by the Food Corporation of India. Okay, so FCI basically takes care of the purchases or the procurement of the products from the farmers, agricultural products from the farmers. At what price? At the price determined by the CACP. So at the price determined by the government, that is the CACP. And so these are purchases or procures at the price determined by the government and sells through the public distribute, that is a ration shop, public distribution system, popularly known as the PDS or fair price shops. We called ration shops, isn't it? Same thing. So that is the ration shop. So this is the job of the Food Corporation of India to purchase the products from the rural farmers, agricultural products from the rural farmers, and distribute to the consumers through the ration shops or the fair price shop through public distribution system. So these are all the two institutions. So the first institution is Agricultural Price Commission, which is now renamed as Commission for Agricultural Cost and Prices. So that commission is responsible for fixing the prices, both the minimum support price as well as the procurement price for the agricultural commodities. And the second institution is Food Corporation of India, which is the main agency purchasing or procuring the products from the farmers at whatever the price decided by the CACP. And Food Corporation of India also maintains the buffer stock, and it also sets the commodities through the to the consumers through the ration shops. So that is the job of the Food Corporation of India. So these are all the two institutions which are set up by the government. Apart from that, the second feature of the agricultural pricing policy in our country is the something called as the fixation of MSP. That is the minimum support price. Fixation of minimum support price. That is the MSP. Okay. So MSP for several products, MSP is determined by the government. So by the government, when I say by the government, it is on the advice of CACP. Okay. For several products, several agricultural products such as wheat, rice, maize, every year, based on the recommendation, based on the recommendation by CACP. Okay, so that's what here. So the government fixes the price for the minimum support price for all these commodities on the advice of the CACP. And the main thing is MSP is fixed in such a way to benefit the farmers. Suppose, so in the beginning I mentioned, isn't it? After the harvest is over, the price will be very low. So the farmers will be getting very, very lesser income out of it after selling the commodities in the market. It is not at all remunerative to them. So the MSP should be more than that price. So it should be, that's why it is called as a support price. The price fixed by the CACP, the price that is paid by the Food Corporation of India to the farmers when they are purchasing the agricultural commodities should be reasonably high enough, should be supporting the farmers and his family. So in such a way, the price is fixed for the all these commodities. That is the minimum support price. So to benefit the farmers. So if it is very low, they will suffer, isn't it? So it should be reasonably high enough so that the farmers will be benefited. So that is the fixation of minimum support prices. Okay. Then on the other side, then the next one is the maximum price fixation. So on the one hand, the farmers, and on the other hand, the consumers. Okay. So the maximum price is fixed for certain commodities which are sold through the ration shops. Whatever the commodities that are sold through the ration shops, the government fixes the maximum price so that the price is not very high enough, so that the consumers will be benefited. So the maximum price is determined, is fixed for most of the commodities that are sold through the ration shops. So commodities like sugar, grains, rice, etc. All these which are sold through the ration shop, that are sold through what we call it as a fair price shops, through the, which is the pub PDS, properly called as the public distribution system. So this price, what should be the maximum price the consumer has to pay to purchase all these commodities? So this maximum price is fixed in such a way that the consumers are not suffering. So the maximum price is fixed in such a way that the consumers are benefited. So if the price is too high, then they will suffer, isn't it? So the consumer is benefited. So minimum support price, the price should not be too low so that the farmers should benefit. Maximum prices, the price should not be very high so that the consumers should benefit. Okay, so both these are done by the food government. So I mean CACP is fixing these prices. Okay, so still one more point is there. What are the procurement price? So there is a difference between what is the minimum support price and what is the procurement price. Okay, which I will explain to you in my next class. And also there are, it is not entirely without any defects. There are several defects are also there in the way the government is fixing the prices. Okay, which I will explain to you in my next class. So if you like this, if you find this video useful, please like, share, and also please subscribe to the channel so that you won't miss any topics. Okay, so until my next class, take care. Bye bye.